Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode of my mini album basics series. So in episode 1 we created a album cover using the easy wrap method. So I will pop a link to that below if you haven't seen it. And in that video I told you guys I would come back and we would create an album cover using a different method, kind of the more traditional method that most people are probably familiar with. So we're going to wrap one like that today. So my album for today is going to be 5.5 by 8 with a 2-inch spine. Okay, so my chipboard is 5.5 by 8 and I have 2 pieces for my front and back cover. And then I have a piece of chipboard for my spine that's 2 by 5.5, okay? So that's the chipboard that we need. And then you also need, for this particular album, I am going to show you how to make an even bigger one while we're wrapping. You're going to need 2 pieces of lightweight cardstock. This is 65-pound craft. I do get mine at Michael's. I did find something at Michael's that's very interesting lately. And I know paper this size has been around for a while, but I was thinking for us album makers, like, this is really, really cool that we can find it at Michael's now. So I'm going to open it up here, if I can get my little openy thing. So in Canada, I live in Canada, this was, so it was $29.99 at Michael's. And now, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I know that the paper, the Recollections brand paper used to be everyday value, so you couldn't use the coupon on it. But I did, I found out when I bought this that the, at least in Canada, the Recollections paper is no longer everyday value, so you can use the coupon on it, okay? So it has, let me see, it has 30 sheets in here, and there's 6 different, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, there's 5 different colors. So there's white, black, off-white, craft, and gray here. So if you are wrapping your albums, usually we have to attach 2 pieces of paper together, but this is, if I can get it off of here, this is 24 by 12. So you can make really big albums with this without having to attach 2 papers together. So it does have 6 sheets of each of the colors. So I just wanted to show you guys that before I started wrapping. I'm not going to use these because I know they're not available to everyone. I might use them in a future video. But I thought this was really cool to show you guys. So they are 24 by 12 and you are able to use the coupon now on the everyday value papers. So, you know, they're 30% off of, at least, like I said, in Canada, they're 30% off of $29.99. So I just wanted to show you guys that before I get started. So like I said, our album is going to be 5.5 by 8. So I am going to cut these 2 sheets of my 8.5 by 11 lightweight craft cardstock. I'm only going to just cut it down to 7.5 because I need it to be 2 inches bigger. Remember that holds for this video as well. For this wrapping method, you just wanted 2 inches larger than your album cover or the chipboard that you're using. So I'm cutting both of these sheets down to 7.5. All right, so I'm going to bring them back in, and I have some thin tape here. This is I think it's 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch tape. This doesn't really matter what size it is. So on one of my pieces, on the 7.5 inch side, I am going to put a strip of tape down the edge of it like this, and I'm going to burnish it. And then I'm going to remove that backing. And I'm going to take my other piece of tape, or sorry, my other piece of craft cardstock, and I'm going to line it up down here, and I'm only going to go over as far as my tape is, just like that, and attach those two pieces together. So now these are attached together and they make one longer piece, okay? So I'm going to grab my chipboard. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my spine piece in the middle. So something that's really, really important with this method is you do not want this where the seam where these two papers are attached. You don't want them, like you don't want to attach this here, say, so that the seam is here, and you don't even want to attach it so that the seam is, you know, fairly close to the edge of it, because it will crack and it's very, very hard to have a nice look to your album if that seam is like on the edge here, or if it's too close to the edge. And that goes the same for these. Like you wouldn't want to attach this here and this here. You want that seam pretty far, or at least I would say at least a half an inch onto your, like into the length of your chipboard, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of 2 by 5.5 here, and I'm going to use my beacon glue. You can use whatever glue you feel comfortable with, wet adhesive, dry adhesive. It doesn't really matter. All right, and I'm going to attach this right in the center here, and you can wiggle it a bit. And I'm going to attach it so I'm leaving an inch at the top and an inch at the bottom here, okay? And right in the center of that spine, or that where our two pieces are taped together. All right, so now I'm going to take one of my 5.5 by 8 pieces, and I'm again just going to put my glue on there. So just get it all over the back of that. And I'm going to put it down so that there's 1/8 of an inch of space between my spine and my cover piece, okay? So about that much space. So if that's kind of hard for you to kind of eyeball, I've been doing this for a while, so I can eyeball it, but basically the basic rule of thumb is you want to take 2 pieces of the chipboard that you're using and place it, and you want it to be that width. So if you want like a good tool to use, you could, you know, cut 2 of the chipboard that you're using down to size and glue them together, and then place them in there, and then place your next piece of chipboard next to that, okay? You need that gap, or else there's no place for your book to fold, okay? So we are going to cut this excess off here on this side once we have glued this one on. So this is again just my 5.5 by 8, my other piece of chipboard. Just get the glue all over that, and then I'm going to place it again with about 1/8 of an inch of space, or you can take your 2 pieces of the chipboard that you're using, put them in beside the spine, and then butt it up against those, if you're not sure exactly how that's going to go. All right, so we can burnish that down. All right, so now I'm just going to use scissors, but you can use whatever you'd like to cut the excess off on this side, and I'm going to try to leave about 1 inch beside here. So I'm cutting that much off there. So I'm cutting about 5/8 of an inch off, I would say, for the size of this album. Now, if you had bigger pieces, like if you even had a longer piece, you can even glue or you can, sorry, tape another piece of paper here. So you would just put another strip of tape here and glue another one of your 8.5 by 11 pieces. You can keep going as big as you need your album to be. But for this, I only needed 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other album. I'm going to use my table and bend that cardstock down over top of my chipboard, and try to make sure that when you're folding your chipboard, when you're folding your paper over your chipboard, that your cardstock goes right up against it. You don't want any gaps between your chipboard and your cardstock. So just kind of pull it in towards the chipboard, and then we can burnish. And you can always put it back and make sure that it is nice and tight against the chipboard. All right, then the same thing for this other side. Use the table, bend it down over top of it, fold it back, just with your hands first, just kind of slowly breaking those fibers. And burnish it down. All right, and then same thing over here on the sides. Use the table. And burnish. And then this other shorter side here. All right, and then we are going to cut across the corners the same way. So again, we have those about, 1-inch squares in all 4 corners. Another good tip, if you're not sure exactly how much to leave on those corners, you can also take a piece of the chipboard that you're using. It's important that it is the chipboard that you're using because it's going to be the same thickness. Put it on the edge of your corners. So make sure it's butted up right against that edge there and diagonally across your book, or what will be our book, and just make a little pencil line, and that kind of leaves exactly as much as you need. Again, I've been doing this for a fair while, so I kind of know how to eyeball it, but you're going to leave about that much, so about a 1/16 of an inch on all 4 corners. So now we have all of those corners cut out. All right, so now I'm going to grab my art glitter glue, but again, you can use tape or whatever you'd like. I think I am gonna just take my tape, just my thin tape, and put 1 strip just across the top here, and we'll use glue for the rest, just so it has a place to, like a quick hold when it goes down while the glue is drying. So let's take the backing off of this. But again, you can use whatever adhesive you like for this step. All right, and I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to run it along the edge of my chipboard first. And we have to kind of work a little bit faster here because the art glitter glue dries pretty quickly. I'm going to put some on the tape and just bring it up in the center first and smooth away from both sides. Just use your hands first, and then we can burnish with the bone folder. All right, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to put 1 piece of tape along this long side here, just like I said, so it has a quick grab while the glue dries. The art glitter glue dries pretty quick, but just so it has more of a chance there. Remove the backing. Then we'll go ahead again and just run our glue along the chipboard. So remember, this prevents cracking in our paper because it softens it up a little bit underneath. And then just all over our flap. And then we can put some on the tape because glue is stronger than tape. So bring it up in the middle first and then smooth it out. It's very important that you pre-fold and burnish your paper over your chipboard before you add glue, because then it'll already be in the place it needs to be, and you are just going to be adding your, you're just going to be just folding it up and letting the glue hold it where you've already pre-burnished it. So on these short sides, I'm just gonna again do the same thing. Add a little bit of tape and then remove the backing and then glue right along that edge and all over our flap, even on the tape. And then bring it up. Just make sure it's burnished up here nicely. And over. All right, and then we'll go over here to our other short side, and we are going to grab our tape and add a strip across the top here, just this little short side. And remove the backing. And we will add our glue along the edge and in this hole on our whole flap and even on the tape. Bring that down. And then burnish it. All right, so now what we need to do is with this flatter side here, let's burnish in these creases. So not with the tip, because that is going to tear and break your cardstock. Just with this flatter edge here, go in these creases. Just like so. And then kind of just slowly bend up one side of your book and then the other side, and then it'll close up, and that is wrapped, okay? So that is the kind of more traditional method of wrapping. And then just to show you kind of a side-by-side difference here, so this is how the easy wrap method looks on the outside on the spine. And then this is how the kind of more traditional method with like a more continuous wrap looks, all right? All right, so in the easy wrap version, we covered this parts of the spine here. So between the spine and our book, we covered with some 1-inch construction strips. But in this version, I'm going to show you how to do the waterfall pages. So we did cover them here because of the waterfall pages attached differently, and you do need to cover the sides. And then in this version, I'm going to show you the actual hinge system where you put the pocket pages onto, okay? So that is going to, the hinge system covers these creases we'll cover these creases on this version. So we're not going to cover these because, like I said, the hinge system will cover those, okay? So in the next the next episode, I guess, of the mini album basics, we will work on our waterfall pages. And we'll probably actually work on both because the waterfall pages is pretty easy to explain. So we'll probably do the hinge, the hinge system for this book. So it's more like the more traditional hinge system will go in this book. And then the waterfall pages will go in our easy wrap method book. All right. So I hope you guys are happy to know 2 different types of ways to wrap your album covers, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you haven't yet, I would love if you would like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode of our mini album basics videos.